Hello, it's Courtney with balancewithcourtney.com. I am passionate about helping others discover their happy, inspire them to make it a daily habit. My intention is to hack happy by interviewing experts to share their story and to inspire others and create a happy movement. Today's happy expert is Debbie Lichter. As the founder of Freedom Embodied Academy and Freedom from Food Addiction, Debbie Lichter has helped women worldwide for nearly a decade to get free from food and other addictions, obsessions, and self-sabotaging patterns so they can stop holding back and have the confidence to authentically shine their light. As an addiction and embodied expert who worked for COSMOPOLITAN Magazine Internationally, Debbie navigated her path to freedom from food and drug addiction, codependency, severe anxiety, and self-doubt, and today combines 20 years of experience in the health and fitness industry with her signature Congruence Code system to help women get free and stay free from all addictions, feel lighter, speak up confidently, and feel comfortable in their own skin. The core message that fuels her mission and work in the world is that women who live congruently experience more freedom, ease, and joy in life. This is the basis for the Freedom Embodied Academy that shows women how to resource their own inner guidance, remember the inherent wisdom of their bodies, and return to the knowing that they are going to be okay no matter what. Debbie works with women internationally through her programs and speaking engagements, and more intimately through live workshops, in-person intensive retreats, and one-on-one mentoring. Debbie has conducted over 200 classes, workshops, and trainings in the areas of addiction, spirituality, and self-care, and is currently donating a service offering of monthly Freedom Talk gatherings at local spiritual center in San Diego for any women wanting more freedom, inner trust, self-love, and the confidence to authentically shine their light. Beautiful, Debbie.
It sounds so fancy listening to it.
Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous. I'm like, let's just stop the interview now. That was amazing. Wow.
That's
and
great.
As everyone can see, she shines her light beautifully.
Oh, Courtney, it's so good to be here. And I love what your mission is. I love what you're here to do. I'm excited to be here with you.
Oh, thank you so much. So everyone, the way I met Debbie is I actually saw her speak and my mouth dropped. I was completely engaged, she could have been selling anything and I was standing up with my hand raised. It was just amazing. You are an amazing speaker. Amazing speaker. And so I definitely reached out. We've been connected ever since. So I'm so grateful to have you here today.
Honored, really honored. Thank you.
So will you share with my followers how you found your happy?
Goodness, yes. I think it was by being on a very unhappy path for a long time. You know, as you read a few moments ago, I really, I actually was already a health and fitness expert who looked like I had it going on, who looked like I had it together, who was helping thousands of people, was running a health club. And I felt like a complete hypocrite and fraud because I was totally addicted to and obsessed with food. I felt anxious all the time. I was addicted to caffeine or anything that would just kind of give me more energy. Like that's where the drug stuff came in. It was anything that would give me more energy. And, I had this feeling of I could walk into work and I could put on a happy face and I could be all about trying to be positive for others because that's what I was. And inside, I was a mess. I was constantly obsessed, worried about what other people thought about me, thinking about food all the time, feeling like I was not enough of the things I was supposed to be, the right things, I was too much of the wrong things. I was too high maintenance or too noisy or too anxious or too, whatever. Like I just wasn't enough of the right things, too much of the wrong things, or just like not the right kind, and so I never felt comfortable in my own skin. And I pretty much was just feeling very incongruent because I felt like I had to be someone in order for everybody else to like me or to approve of me or to, respect me.
Yeah.
And I never really felt like I could just be me.
Mm.
And so, that where that got me was turning myself inside out for so long, trying to be what I thought other people needed me to be, that I actually did completely lose a sense of who I was. I didn't really know who I was. It's really hard to be happy when you don't really know who you are and what patterns or ways of being are just your conditioning and just, or what actually is authentic to you. And I remember people asking me in my 20s, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do? And I was embarrassed because I worked and I obsessed about food and I obsessed about what other people thought about me. And, and I mean, I didn't actually have a whole lot of hobbies. And that was a big source of shame for me.
Yeah.
So, really for me, it wasn't until I got honest that the way that I was doing things wasn't working, because, my life for the most part, Court, was like pretty good from the outside. I looked fine. I looked happy. I was, I could kind of check off certain boxes. And so I was able to lie to myself for a long time that things were okay. And it really took me, it took me a while to finally get honest with myself that I was exhausted. I was depleted. My body was I was riddled with chronic pain. I was showing markers for an autoimmune disease. I was, in a constant adrenal burnout. I was in constant fights with my partner. I mean, just like everything was kind of blowing up around me. And I finally had to look at what are all of these common denominators. And it all pointed back to me. And I really had to get honest. And that was the hardest thing for me to do. But from that place, I became open to asking for some help. Truly, because up until that point, I considered myself as the expert. And I was like, I help all these other people. I should be able to figure this out. I should be able to figure out my food. I've been eating my whole life. I should be able to figure this out. I just need to get this thing under control. I just need to, I always had a belief about how I just needed to do it. It was nobody else's problem, but it was mine. And I needed to figure it out. And, they say, all the answers are within. So I'm like, okay, well, all the answers are within. So I need to figure this out. And if I can't, it's because I'm weak or I lack discipline or I'm unmotivated or there's something wrong with me. Maybe I'm broken, and I would have stayed there had I not met a woman who ended up becoming my spiritual mentor, because she was so great. She was a recovered alcoholic, and she was like, listen. She just didn't even mince words. She was like, listen.
I can see right through you.
You know what I mean? She was like, listen. Because the thing is that when you're struggling with any addictive pattern, and let me just actually reframe what addiction is the way I see it, because I've now, over the last decade, worked with so many thousands of people, and I find that sometimes that word snags us. Like, I don't want to identify with that because I don't want to, put myself in a box, or I don't want to. I'm like, listen, addiction is anything that we do to distract or numb ourselves from an underlying discomfort or dis-ease. And that when we try to stop doing, we find that we can't. So it's like whatever we're reaching for, if we're feeling that level of discomfort and dis-ease inside, we reach for something. Maybe it's Netflix, maybe it's attention, maybe it's a glass of wine, maybe it's some, some dessert, or maybe it's with men or with women or with, work sometimes can fill that for a lot of us, or just general obsessing or fixing or controlling others or obsessing about, it's like, there's so many things that fit into that category. And so that's what I mean when I'm referring to, addictions.
Yeah.
But what she really said to me was, look, because at that point I wasn't willing to even consider that I had addictions. I wouldn't have put it in that framework. That wasn't a framework that I was working with at the time. But she helped me to see what that was and why. I got clarity around why that was addiction, and not that not in order to make me feel small or bad about myself or anything like that, but to actually say, listen, you're trying to solve the problems in your life, but you're doing it with an incomplete solution because you're going through and trying to use all the personal development tools you have and all the knowledge you have and all the nutrition knowledge you have and all the health knowledge that you have and, you know, all the things that you've learned from your upbringing, and you're trying to do all these things, and all that's great, but it's insufficient when you're actually struggling with something that is an addiction or an obsession pattern. That actually requires a different mode. And so that was really, really powerful for me. And I finally got the solution and got into a place where I got free of all that stuff. And it was incredible. And what I realized on the other side of that is that what I really was learning how to do was I was learning how to become fully congruent. And what I discovered was that when we are able to become congruent internally, and when I talk about congruence, Courtney, what I mean is that your head and your heart and your gut are all on the same page. They're all in alignment. So like if you've got a heart's desire, like I'm sure you've got lots of heart's desires. You're such a happy, amazing person. And like, you know, if you've got a heart's desire, let's say that you want to call in more love. And so you're this heart saying, I want to call in more love, but then your head says, yeah, but you're going to get rejected, or, you know, people are going to get too close, and then they're going to realize that you are just high maintenance, or you're selfish, or you just can't really do this. And so we hold back. And I talk to people all day long, or I talk to people who are like, I know I'm here to shine my light. I know I'm here to help more people, but I feel like I'm not ready, or I feel like, what if I don't have anything to say, or what if I look stupid, or what if people judge me? And then we take all these steps back and we don't take that step forward. That's examples of living incongruently.
Yes.
And I speak with people all the time. They're like, well, I'm doing this work because, you know, I've got this job. I don't really like it, but I've got this job that's paying the bills and it's doing whatever. And we kind of know deep down that we're selling our soul, that we're selling what's going to authentically make us happy. But we've kind of like, we've created it in our minds, like we've built up the fear of not doing that thing is so big to us that it's like, no way, I'm just going to sell out over here, and I'm just going to put on a happy face over there, and I'm just going to kind of try to forget it over here, and I'm just going to smooth over that. I'm going to numb this out. I'm going to distract from this. And we do this, right?
Putting out fires.
Right? And all of that creates this discomfort inside of us. And so I realized that I'm like, oh my gosh, if we are living incongruently, and that creates all this discomfort and dis-ease inside of us, that's going to always drive us for a sense of ease and comfort. It's always going to do that. So if we can have that underlying ease and comfort because we're living congruently, then all those patterns, all that addiction pattern and sabotage pattern and obsession pattern, all that stuff falls away because it just doesn't need to live in an environment that is congruent, that is easeful, that is comfortable in your own skin, that's happy inside, right?
Yes. Your body's constantly trying to find that balance.
Yeah. So, you know, that's why I'm so on fire to help women. And that's why I created Freedom Embodied Academy to really guide women through. I mean, the vehicle that we go through in Freedom Embodied Academy is the Congruence Code. And that was a system that channeled through me as a result of this personal journey. And I say to women, I'm like, I teach this, but I don't take credit for it. It came through me. And I also feel like a student of it because the nuances of becoming congruent and continuing to live congruently is a lifelong practice.
Yes.
And it's beautiful, and it continues to unfold just like the journey of being happy is.
Yes, yes. How beautifully put. You know, there's so many of women watching today that have lost themselves, like you said, had no idea who they are anymore or what they wanted. And being able to feel free to ask for help, that is the most important step, right? Because when we are so lost, we just need someone to just give us a little direction. And when we're so lost, we're not listening to our internal guidance. It's screaming, but we can't hear it because you're right. We are completely out of balance. We're very inconsistent. So how beautiful that you have created such a safe place for women to find that congruency within themselves.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Will you define what happy? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You look like you wanted to say something.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, it's fascinating because one of the things that I find, and you've spoken to it so beautifully, Courtney, because we all kind of want to trust our inner guidance. Like I speak with women all day long. They're like, I want to trust myself. I want to trust my inner guidance. I know the answers are within. They're somewhere in there. They're in there somewhere, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But then we have all this doubt and second guessing of ourselves. And I find that when I'm speaking with ladies a lot, it holds them back from asking for help. And that's how I was too. I completely relate to that. But I just want to draw a distinction between asking for help. This was, and I'm only speaking from personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
When I finally asked for help and I connected with a spiritual mentor who really got me, who had been on a path similar to mine that could really show me, you know, what I was missing that was blocking me. She wasn't there to become my expert and my new guru. She actually showed me how to gain access to that very inner guidance that I was not able to access on my own because I was feeling so lost. And so I love that you shared that because it's so true. And, you know, if I can invite the people listening right now to just have a consideration, it would really be to not lump those two things together, that sometimes getting a distinction or getting some support can actually guide you back to you in a way that you come home to yourself at a deeper level than you ever knew was possible.
Oh, yes. Yes, so true. So Debbie, will you define what happiness means to you?
Yeah, happy for me is just feeling like I don't need anything else, like feeling totally satisfied in the moment, feeling comfortable in my own skin, and just having that feeling that I'm just okay and I'm going to be okay no matter what. Like a feeling of just peace, and a peace of mind mixed with joy, just the natural joy of just being here, being me, being comfortable, and then that little bit of like that inspiration, like knowing that it's all being taken care of and I'm getting what I need and it's all there. Yeah, so I think it's that deep feeling of just I don't have to be anywhere else other than right here, right now.
Right, right. And I talk about a lot how important it is, especially us as women, just to take several times a day and just close our eyes and go back to where we are, right? Because we get so outside our body and we give so much all day long, to just check ourselves and say, how do I feel? What do I need? Who am I? Just check yourself several times a day, just back to that core. Yes.
So important. I did it before I hopped on this call. I do it all the time. It's a huge practice. It's one of my go-to practices is that recentering. And there's a term that I've got 3 pillars in the Freedom Embodied Academy as women are guided through the 14 gateways. And the one, well, I'll actually, all 3 of them, I'll just kind of list really quickly because they're actually relevant to what you just said. So the first one is to remember. It's literally to come back into our bodies, like remember putting Humpty Dumpty back together again. We can be so up in our heads, so disconnected, so detached, so disembodied, that actually having that, just that, so there's practices that I teach. There's grounding practices and deep presencing practices and sensing practices that I teach to support women in that. But I love that you just, spoke into that, because that's so important, is just to connect with your body.
Yes.
And then the resourcing, RE-sourcing, is that piece of just coming back into that connection of, oh yeah, I am connected to all things. Because again, when we're in that okay, what do I got to do next? And we're looking out around us and we're in the planning and projecting and perfecting mode, we can kind of feel detached, or like it's, me and the world. And sometimes just really dropping in and taking those few breaths to really resource is so important. And there's a lot of amazing practices around that. And I'm sure you have some practices around that as well. And then the final piece is returning. It's like returning your mind into that alignment with truth, into that alignment with divine truth. If that's your belief system, that knowing of, okay, this is who I be. And maybe the fear train of thought just kind of started going down a certain rabbit hole, and I started projecting over here, and I started kind of hemorrhaging power over there. But ultimately, let me come back to the sovereignty of who I know myself to be. And it's so important before we go into any conversation, or before we enter our day, before we enter sitting down at a meal, before we enter, connecting with another person. How beautiful to just recenter. So I love that you brought that up.
Oh, good. And thank you so much for sharing those 3 key points. Those are gorgeous. So will you give some more tools that people can use to maintain their happy and make it a daily habit? Maybe some things that you do daily.
Yeah. So I would say, do what moves you. Number one is do what moves you. So doing what moves me, I mean, truly music. Like people say, well, what kind of music do you like? And I say, I don't know the names of bands or artists or even tracks really. But if I listen to something, I know it moves me. And I go in that direction. And I do that as well. And this is actually an art that I teach the women who have an opportunity to work with, where they actually cultivate such a capacity to be connected in their bodies and to sense and to feel the nuances and the subtle rhythms and changes that I can sense when something is like, when my body's moving towards a yes, and when something feels like a no. I can actually feel that at a visceral level. And so I move in the direction of what feels expansive and what moves me in a very literal way, and also just in an energetic way.
Yeah.
And so that's a beautiful thing. So just do what moves you, and I invite you to dance whenever you can.
Oh gosh, you can never go wrong with that. That or singing.
Daily practice, dancing and singing. Make that a daily practice.
I completely agree.
Yeah, another thing that I do, that I just invite those who are listening, who are feeling like they're resonating with this conversation, is to do what inspires you. So, what inspires me, I mean, and Courtney and you and I have talked about this before, but just a creative expression. Yes. I, make jewelry, and jewelry for me was something that bubbled out of me after I got free of my addictions, really, because the addictions were really holding me down. My judgments were blocking my joy, and my addictions were really blocking my inner artist. And so when I got free of that stuff, and just, and it was able to just kind of release this authentic joy and awe and wonder, and that all that story of the, like not being enough, or not being too, or being too much, or not being the right kind, or not worthy enough, or any of that, like, and having to be perfect all the time. And I got free of all that stuff. In fact, my jewelry allowed me to get free of that stuff, because the jewelry, I was just creating art for art's sake. I wasn't trying to be perfect with it. And I actually got over my inner perfectionist through that. And so it inspires me to be creative in the world. Every single time I do a Facebook Live, every single time I create, some teachings to share with the women who I work with, like all of that inspires me and calls me forward. And so I would just invite people to do what inspires you. If you're listening to something, if there's something that's been inspiring you here, just take action on that. That'll calibrate you to not only to happiness, but also to congruence, which is what, which is what,
exactly.
what's going to help you so much. And the last one, which people might not think is actually part of the path of being happy, but I found that it really, really is.
Yeah.
It's do what scares you.
Be uncomfortable.
And be uncomfortable. So, I mean, again, I am a specialist in helping women get comfortable in their own skin. And I was just sharing in our call on Tuesday that the paradox of becoming comfortable in your skin is that you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And what this is so big. I mean, this has happened every single time. Well, it happened for a long time before I would go on and do a Facebook Live or something. And I'm like, because it's like real time, and all of a sudden it's you and 5,000 friends, and it's like, but this really came up for me the last time I did my Freedom Embodied live event, where it's this 2-day event, and I've got all this desire of like wanting to just, support women around, like, this is what to do to, overcome your food addiction. And this is what to do to get comfortable in your skin and to really have the confidence to shine your light. But feeling, like having a room full of women and going on stage and doing all this stuff, it brought up it was so uncomfortable. It was so uncomfortable. And I remember the day before the event, I called up a dear friend of mine, and I said, I feel sick. I don't think I can do this tomorrow. I'm exhausted. I feel sick. I'm resentful. I'm just like cranky. I'm like, there's no way, and whatever. And she just said, she reminded me, Deb, this is going to happen because you are about to step into something really big. And it gets crunchy beforehand, because, if you can imagine, each one of us, like, we're bumping up against that ceiling, against that envelope or that glass ceiling or that upper limit or whatever you want to call it. And it's uncomfortable as anything. And what I find, PS, by the way, is that if we don't have that support or guidance, those moments are the moments where we say, see, I'm never going to get this. And then we go back to whatever addictive pattern or self-sabotaging pattern we've relied on in the past. We make ourselves wrong. We take 5 steps back, and we never move past that place.
Yep.
And so what I realized is that, so what I did, well, I'll just share what I did. I got on the phone with her, and I'm like, she's absolutely right. And so I did a process that I teach my clients of like really, really calling upon spirit to up-level me, to upgrade my physiology, to upgrade my energy, to upgrade and to release any of the entitlement and victimhood and story and all this stuff that's standing away. Like, really, and I just open myself up, like graduate my spirit so that I can launch beyond this space. And it was so incredible, because I soared. Like, after that, I had like actually a very, very powerful, like kind of crazy thing that happened to me. But I emerged from that experience, Courtney, completely energized, happy, excited, like everything that wasn't serving got removed. And I was just like, game on. And I walked into it. It was so interesting, because that night before the event, I didn't sleep. And it wasn't a nervous not sleeping, but it was actually the energy that I was feeling was all the energy of the women who were coming.
Yes.
And all night long, I was exhausted. I was tired, but the message that I was getting was, I got you. I got you. Just show up. I got you. And I'm like, I so trust that you got me, and I would love to get a couple hours of sleep.
Exactly. I hear you. Now let me sleep.
Now let me sleep. Needless to say, I walked to the 2-day event on 2 hours of sleep, and it was incredible. It was so incredible. But on the other side of that crunchy space was the happy, was the reward, was the interaction with the women. And if I wasn't willing to move past that, the like, it's scary, I don't want to do it, or like
Yes.
the angst of the discomfort of being in all of that, I never would have broken through. And so, you know, what I always share with my clients, and what I would love to share with those folks who are listening right now who are inspired by this message, is whatever you do, don't do it for the outcome.
Yes.
Do it for who you will become.
Wow. See, told you. Quote right there. Oh my gosh.
Quotable.
Beautiful.
It's so powerful, because that is, I mean, we talk about whether we're talking about being happy, we're talking about being congruent, we're talking about just authentically shining your light. That is the stuff that we're talking about. And who you get to constantly become on the other side of what scares you is exponentially more magical than you could ever imagine.
Oh gosh, yes. Oh gosh, yes. Can you say that quote one more time? That was beautiful.
Don't do something for the outcome. Do it for who you will become.
Oh, honey, that is magical. And what a beautiful way to end this amazing interview.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Such an honor.
So inspiring.
Such an honor. Yeah.
Will you please let everyone know how they can reach out to you? Because I know there is plenty of women that are going to be wanting some congruency and find out how to get there. So please let them know.
Well, what I would love to gift, I'd love to gift two things. First of all, I would love to gift any woman who's listening to this right now who says, hey, I want to know about how to be more congruent in my life. I relate to some of that stuff. Then I would love to just gift a free training. It's actually, if you go to congruencecodefreetraining.com, there's a whole 45-minute training that goes into depth about a little bit of the stuff that we were touching on today, but deeper about how you can actually start to orient yourself around becoming more congruent for yourself. Super, super powerful. And then what I always recommend with women on the back end of that is, after listening to that, or even before, is to like hop on my calendar for a congruence activation call. I would be so happy to chat with you, because it's what I've been put on this planet to do. I did not go through what I went through to live in a silo and just have it be my own experience. You know? Like, exactly. Right? Like, there's so much that I want to be able to support other women around, some distinctions to really help you look at, you know, 7 areas that might be showing up incongruently for you. And I can show you, you know, kind of what you want to focus on in order to come into more congruence. And so if that's something that you want to do, you know, there's actually going to be a link when you get the congruence free training. There's actually a link to grab on my calendar, but we can also, I'm sure we can, we can just put something in the comments. Oh, of course. You can go to allofyou.today if you want to just book that clarity call directly, allofyou.today. That'll give us an opportunity to get a congruence activation call going. And we can put all of this stuff in the link. Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful. And the people, when they watch, they like to comment under the video. Just go ahead and comment hashtag Congruence Code, and we will make sure that we'll get that link to them for sure. Is that okay? Wonderful. Perfect. Thank you so much, Debbie. This was so wonderful. Courtney, it's been such a fun time being here with you. I'm so excited for what you're creating and I've created. Yes. And it's just an honor. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. You are so welcome. And I look forward to sharing you with everyone else. Please hang on. I'd love to chat with you after we end. Thank you for taking your time for us and for your growth. I hope you discover new happy habits to support your happiness. Please reach out with questions, or if you need more support, in our Happy Balance Facebook group or balancewithcourtney.com. And if you need one-on-one inspiration and support, please book a happy call. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you so much, Courtney.